Honey, don't walk out, I'm too drunk to follow. You know you won't feel this way tomorrow. Well, I'm a little rough around the edges and inside a little hollow. And I'm faced with something sometimes that are so hard to swallow. Hey, but I was born a rebel down in Beauty on a Tuesday morning. Of 1 foot in the grave, 1 foot's on the pedal. I was born a rebel. I was born a rebel. She picked me up in the morning and she paid on my ticket, said, screamed in the car and let me out in the thicket. Well, I never would have dreamed that her heart was so wicked. I keep coming back, 'cause it's so hard to kick it. Hey, 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 and I was born a rebel down in Dixie on a Sunday morning. Of 1 foot in the grave, 1 foot's on the pedal. I was born a rebel. I was born a rebel. Even before my father's father, well, they called us all rebels. They burned out our crops and they leveled our town. Well, I still feel the eyes of those red-coated devils, and I'm walking around tonight through the concrete and metal. Hey, 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 'cause I was born a rebel up in Beauty on a Tuesday morning. I've 1 foot in the grave, I've 1 foot on the pedal. I was born a rebel. I was born a rebel. Hey, 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 I was born a rebel. I was born a rebel. I was born a rebel.
If there were but 100 of us remained alive, never would we, under any condition, be brought under anybody's idea of a new world order. It is, in truth, not for honour, nor for glory, certainly not for riches, that we are fighting, but for freedom. For that one thing alone which no honest person would give up save with life itself. Once we were warrior poets. For now, we must stand for peace. But make no mistake, if you hear my voice this evening, you are the resistance, and our time is coming. Dolly Parton, dead at 80. I Will Always Love You was my favourite song. That and Coat of Many Colours. Somewhere on my timeline, you might even find a version of me doing A Coat of Many Colours. The original Transylvanian transsexual transvestite Tim Curry, dead at 80. Oh well, I'm sure that we can still do the time warp without him. It's a pity that Donald won't shuffle off this mortal coil since he's fucking 80. Come on, Donald, what are you waiting for? I thought this broadcast was going to be about the D-Day economic sanctions, Operation Economic Isolation. They love their fucking names, don't they? Then I thought it might be about the birthday party in Kiev and our unelected, unfucking wanted and useless bastard Prime Minister going there. But of course, that all got gazumped when CIA Director Radcliffe flew in today, or late last night, into Moscow for a flying visit on a C-17, unexpectedly. Sorry to hear that, Andy. There's a lot of it going about, unfortunately. Don't worry. Willie Nelson, Keith Richards and I are still alive, and the young people better start to think about the world they're leaving for us. Where to start? Okay, let's deal with Operation Economic Isolation, or whatever the fuck it was called. It wasn't called isolation. Can't remember. If you know, then tell me. But pretty much I know the feeling. I'm isolated. I'm shoved to the side. It's alright. Thankfully, I have no ego. At least beyond that of attempting to give those who will listen whatever heads up I can for what's going on. Besant's D-Day. Yes, Andy, that's about right. Besant's D-Day sanctions on Iran. On the one hand, are very pathetic. Even the Financial Times, their comment section was full of nothing but ridicule for Scott Bessant's attempt to isolate Iran economically. You see, who trades with Iran? Russia, China, Pakistan, Turkey. Pakistan and Turkey are heavily dependent on Iran for gas. In fact, their economies would crumble without Iranian gas and other exports. Russia and China basically spat out their coffee fucking laughing. Especially when Bessant went on to talk about secondary sanctions. And the coup d'etat for the whole fucking nonsense was when a reporter said to him, in World War II, on D-Day, troops were landing on the beaches. They were being killed and they were killing. Why are you saying you will do this? Why aren't you just doing it? And like a fox caught in the headlights, Besant had to admit, well, you don't really want me to crash the world economy, do you? What he did was sign the death, if it wasn't already on its last legs, of the petrodollar. Gold is now the world's reserve currency. America's economic sanctions only work through countries that use SWIFT. Nobody is using SWIFT anymore. Instead, over 100 countries have signed up to the Chinese, is it called CIPS? Which is basically doing the same thing. It's enabling transactions internationally between countries in their own currencies. Now, America is past the 40 trillion debt mark. In fact, in just under a week since it did that, that debt is now up to 40 trillion 100 billion, which means that projected by the end of September is going to be 41 trillion. And both Japan and China are holding on to massive amounts of US debt that they're about to fucking dump. Capiche? The world is in an economic crisis, and diesel and kerosene or avgas is in short supply. The only places to get these things, the heavy sour crude to produce these things, are Russia, who isn't exporting diesel, and the Gulf, which isn't exporting anything. No matter how many times the demented Oompa Loompa in the fucking White House proclaims the Straits of Hormuz to be open, in fact, this very day. Oman, no longer worried about what Americanos can do to them, have agreed with Iran to suspend any what's the word that I'm looking for, any cooperation with the United States in trying to use the so-called Omani corridor, which wasn't working anyway because Iran was just blasting the fuck out of any tanker with transponders on or off that attempted to go through and attacking the US warships. No one's talking about that. So Besant's Operation Economic fucking whatever was dead on arrival. Russia, which means Putin, very benevolently allowed Ukraine to celebrate its 35th birthday. I'm almost tempted to get Alex to do her rendition of Happy Birthday Ukraine. It was better than Marilyn Monroe's Happy Birthday Mr. President, quite frankly. And the whole point of her show was, it's their last birthday. Bad enough that the nothings from the Baltics and Finland turned up. And bad enough that the third-rate Americans, Kellogg et al., turned up. But our own benighted, befuddled, unelected, unwanted Andy fucking Burnham was forced, and that's the right word, to make his first foreign visit to the most corrupt Nazi regime on the planet and to kiss the ring in Kiev. Keith Kellogg, well, and the former vice president, can't even remember the cunt's name, who cares, he was such a non-entity anyway. And Kellogg has been chosen to be the water carrier for the gaslighting of the fact that now Ukraine's run out of men, at least men who aren't politically connected or rich or, to send to the meat grinder in the front line. They're now going to conscript women. Now, it was Alex on this very page who said a couple of years ago that the whole transgender fucking movement was so they could conscript women, so if you wanted to say that you were a man transitioning to a woman, guess what? You ain't got no fucking excuse, baby. It's not like you can escape Barrel and go to a nice cushy fucking Court and Vale now. They're still going to take a gun and put it in your hand and handcuff you. Do you only do this to these cunts in Ukraine? Not only do they kidnap them off the street, but they know they're going to attempt to run away, so they bust them to the front line in fucking handcuffs. But that's alright, that's Western values of action, right there. So yeah, wasn't enough that Ukraine destroyed its entire male population. Now, they're going to conscript the women. So, any of you fuckers that thought you might go to Ukraine on a sex holiday, you might as well forget that, because that's done now too. Ukraine as a country is dead. And ain't never fucking coming back. It's landlocked, it's an island. Burnham, which is Starmer Light, and you'd never thought you'd hear that in your fucking life. Well, he was forced to give a speech, which I can't believe he wrote, saying how Ukraine, we shouldn't be looking at Ukraine as a charity case anymore. That will upset all the cunts that go around the city centres with their Ukrainian fucking flags and cars and Slava fucking Nazi bastards and their buckets trying to collect money. Which never sees the front line, by the way. Because Ukrainians are fucking corrupt. Capiche? It's like the Scottish independence movement. When they were going around with fucking buckets, where do you think the money from that shit went to? It didn't go to the independence movement. Might have gone to a takeaway or two, or a carry out, but it didn't go to fucking independence. So yes, Burnham turns up saying how Ukraine is no longer a charity case, but it's a bulwark of European security. So much so that here you go, Mr. Coke King of Kiev, fucking Zelensky. We are not just giving you Storm Shadow. Here's a blueprint to build the fuckers. Except that only means that Britain's run out of Storm Shadows to send. And I could give the local fucking drunk down in the pub a blueprint to build a nuclear bomb. I don't think he'd be able to build it, but I could give him it. And if the Kiev regime attempted to actually build a factory to build Storm Shadows, oh, I think the Russians might know about that, and a little Iskander or two might be on its fucking way. Toot sweet. In return, apparently, Burnham, UK's national fucking, security apparatus, received the AI battle data for Palantir. Oh wait. Now, isn't Palantir already hip deep, if not neck deep, in Britain? Isn't Palantir already running the National Health Service, which is going to hell in a handbag? Try getting a National Health Service dentist, by the way. So, you're telling me that the UK, what we got AI, battlefield tech. And nobody's thinking for a fucking minute, maybe it's not the best idea in the world to be turning over the battlefield to fucking AI. I remember Terminator, even if you don't. No. That whole charade is about the fact that the United Kingdom is getting ready to do a false flag ballistic missile attack into Russia. They want plausible deniability. They want to say, well, we gave them the tech, but they built the missile. Not a fucking chance in the world, baby. Where all of Ukraine is drowning in fucking corruption. The ex-defense minister, what was his name? Vidazablin or whatever the fuck it is. Because to be honest, they're all cunts and I'm sick to death of them all. The one who's out there calling for fucking elections. Well, you see, the biggest drone manufacturer in Ukraine is a company that was started by Zelensky's ex-location minister, Zelensky's ex-fucking talent agent, and Zelensky's ex-fucking other something to do with producing fucking shite TV programs. And they're producing drones, FP3s, that cost approximately $5,000 to build, and they're selling them to the Ukrainian government at $55,000 a pop. Good business if you can do it. You know, I rail at my competitors who double dump people for materials. You know, I mean, if I buy a bag of cement that costs me £7, that's how much my client pays. Most other cunts, they buy a bag of cement, £7, they're charging the client £15 for the same bag of cement. That's greedy. But to buy a bag of cement for £7 and to tell the client that it costs £570, that's fucking ridiculous. And yet, that is the open corruption going on in Ukraine. That's why Fernandez, or whatever the cunt's name was, I do know it, I'm just teasing, already appropriated all of Ukraine's war budget for the next year. That's why Sersky was so pissed. That's why the US has sent in Naboo. Oh, okay. Which leads to the next thing, which was the visit by Radcliffe and the absolute fucking gaslighting that's been going on ever since. Late yesterday, unexpectedly unannounced, CIA Director Radcliffe jumped on a C-17 somewhere in Eastern Europe. Now, the CIA has its own private jets, but jumped on a C-17 and flew into Moscow. Now, yes, Beth, and your dad was a robbing bastard. So, Radcliffe flew into Moscow, unexpectedly unannounced, and it coincided with the diplomatic envoy from Rome flying in at the same time. Most people are not connecting the two dots there, but out of it came a flurry of speculation. So let's just review who Radcliffe is. He is the most anti-Russian in the Trump administration. Oh, my moves look fucking terrible tonight. There's vanity for you. He's the man who has been authorizing the intelligence to allow Ukraine to strike deep into Russia. He's the very man who, whilst Putin was on a conversation with the Oompa Loompa and kept hanging on the line by the Oompa Loompa, sent a swarm of drones to Putin's residence in Valdai in an attempt to assassinate him. He is the CIA director who has been authorizing the intel to allow Ukraine to strike children's dormitories. And so the lies began to abound. Now, I wasn't in the room. None of the people who claim these things, none of the newspapers, outlets who claim to know what was said, none of them were in the fucking room. But then none of them have a brain that can do a little bit of out of the box thinking or thinking for themselves, which no one nowadays seems to be fucking taught. Radcliffe didn't go there to surrender, because Oompa Loompa is incapable of that. However, the Oompa Loompa, just like Elvis, is caught in a trap and he can't get out. So, the war in Ukraine is lost. The war against Iran is lost. The Europeans are pushing for escalation with Russia, and the Americanos, who are tapped out of fucking weaponry, are thinking this isn't such a great fucking idea. It's one thing to contemplate dropping a tactical nuke on Pickaxe Mountain. It's another thing to go full-on thermonuclear fucking war with the biggest nuclear power on the planet, vis-a-vis Russia. And yet, that's where we're motherfucking going. Radcliffe didn't see Putin. Putin wouldn't have seen him. That's not how these things work. Nor did Radcliffe go to threaten Russia with anything. If he had, his conversation would have lasted 4 hours with his counterpart only. It would have lasted about 5 fucking minutes before being tossed out in his ear. No. Radcliffe went there to begin the process, the attempted process of de-escalation, because Russia is losing patience. And finally, some of the grown-ups at the Pentagon, and maybe even if there is a grown-up left in the Trump administration, has figured that out. Trump, being Trump, said, oh well, things are looking good. So forget the speculation that Radcliffe was there to threaten Russia with anything. Forget the speculation that Radcliffe was there to say to Russia, you better not support Iran. Nonsense. On a high-level intelligence basis, they were talking about the steps necessary for de-escalation. Problem: nobody trusts America. Nobody trusts the Trump administration. The Trump administration, unfortunately, has a reputation for conducting peace negotiations whilst having missiles fly to attempt to decapitate those that they're negotiating with. It's all very Captain Kirk, don't you know? We come in peace, shoot to kill, man. So maybe Radcliffe was on a serious mission. If he was, if he wasn't, does not matter. Why the C-17? Well, whilst initial reports that the US Embassy in Moscow has been shut down, not true, but significant numbers of CIA personnel were pretty much thrown out of Moscow. That's why they had the C-17. No sooner had Radcliffe lifted off, I'm leaving on a jet plane. Very musical tonight. Dan. David, he might have, but I don't think so. Dan. Ukraine, oh sorry, what I mean to say is the UK, launched 2 attacks, not just 1, 2. A massive drone swarm into Moscow, targeting another e-commerce warehouse, killing workers there. And to do this, they're literally flying thousands of drones. Maybe 8 get through. It's still enough to cause a fire. It's not enough to do damage to the Russian war machine, but it's sure enough to annoy the fuck out of Moscow. But that wasn't enough. The Flamingo missile, British Flamingo missile, that is actually a revamped World War II V3 Nazi missile, remember? Well, having no success getting that anywhere near anything of importance in Russia, decided to send 8 of the fuckers to blow up a shopping centre and a bus stop in the Donbass, killing numerous civilians. Oh, but Ian, I hear the fucking naysayers say, and didn't Russia just the other day blow up a shopping centre in Kiev? No, they didn't. Kiev has been very open. You see, the fuckers on Telegram, on TikTok, even on YouTube, are daft enough to show exactly what they're doing. So, every shopping centre in Ukraine is a drone factory. They're using the parking lots underneath the shopping centres. They're using the back rooms of the shops to put together the parts. Then, in the parking lots underneath, those parts, thus assembled, are being put on the backs of trucks that are civilian trucks, that then go out, roll up the doors like your fucking Tesco delivery, and boom, 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 out go the drones. Because Ukraine doesn't mind using civilians as human shields. It doesn't mind dragging men and women off the street and sending them to the front line in handcuffs. Why the fuck do you think it would mind using their populace as human fucking shields? If Russia attacks anywhere in Ukraine, I guarantee you there is a military target. But when Ukraine, I'm just going to start calling it the UK at this point, I think, decide to strike a shopping mall in Donbass, it has no military value. It is not a military target. It is simply an act of terrorism. Now, I'm going to talk about the Vatican envoy before circling back to why we in this United Kingdom ought to be worried and why our unelected Prime Minister and his government are very fucking worried. Why they have hit the panic stations button. The most sacred space in all of Eastern Orthodoxy happens to lie in Ukraine. You don't know that because, well, for many reasons, but I do. That's why the Ukrainian people protested so much when the corrupt Zelensky government started to raid the monastery. World War II daring do. We'll have more than that on Sunday, even if some people don't think it's relevant. The SS turned a mountain fortress into a cathedral for satanic worship. Knights of the SS. Goebbels loved it. Teutoburg it was called. It was filled with occultism, parodies of the Knights of the Round Table, the Teutonic Knights. It was an aberration. Yes, Nick, sorry. There was two, but yes, that was the main one. That's what I'm thinking about. Thank you for the correction, mate. Now, there's been a bit of controversy recently. Exactly, Glenn. About the reburying of Banderite and Nazi collaborators. But guess what? Zelensky and his merry band of Nazis intend to take the most sacred space in Eastern Orthodoxy and turn it into a pantheon of heroes. Let me explain to you how bad that is for Eastern Orthodox Christianity. That would be like taking a wood chipper into Mecca and throwing down pork into it so that it sprayed the black cube with pork. That would be like taking a satanic fucking black mass into the heart of St. Peter's Basilica. Russia is not going to let this aberration happen. The Pope during World War II collaborated with the Nazis. This Pope has done nothing whilst watching the Ukrainians desecrate Eastern Orthodoxy, has done nothing whilst watching the Israelis desecrate Christian villages in the West Bank and in Lebanon. Lavrov just gave a gypsy's warning to the Vatican. Now, because of the drone strikes and the flamingo strikes into Donbass, even while I am speaking, Russia is launching probably its biggest attack on Ukraine since the war began. Kiev, by the morning, might look like a firebombed Tokyo. And I'm not kidding. News outlets saying that Russia is preparing to use a nuke on Ukraine are lying. Russia doesn't need to use a nuke on Ukraine. A few Orezhniks into the heart of Kiev will do the job. Thank you very much. In the meantime, all across the battlefields, Russia is advancing. Ukraine's manpower is being whittled to zero. The worst job in the Ukrainian military right now is being a drone operator because Russia knows how to hunt you down and kill you. But Peskov, Putin's personal spokesman, is now openly telling the West that the United Kingdom, not Germany, not France, not the Chihuahua states and the Baltics, but the United Kingdom, is now considered as a co-belligerent in this war. And that legitimizes Russia to attack this disunited kingdom. Which is why Andy Berman's in such a flap. You know, there is some truth to the conspiracy tweets that say, why is the king no longer living in Buckingham Palace, and why is Andy Burnham moved at number 10 to Manchester? Maybe it's because I'm a Londoner. The British government has received intelligence, shall we call it that, even though it's a misnomer, that Russia is imminently thinking about testing NATO's resolve, knowing it is completely disarmed, by striking out at UK factories which are making drones. Sorry, Alex Swindon might well be a target. And developing the ballistic missiles that will be used in a false flag event. The Burnham Labour government right now, panically, because it's panic stations, is dusting off the old Cold War manuals. Soon, maybe tomorrow, maybe next week, the blessed BBC will be running on its breakfast news why you, if you live in the UK, ought to be stockpiling water and canned goods in case of an emergency. Now they'll say it could be a cyber attack, it could be a power outage, but they know what they're talking about is they are getting shit scared that Russia's actually going to blow the fuck out of the United Kingdom. And they can do so conventionally. Maybe tomorrow I'll wanna settle down. Until tomorrow I'll just keep moving round. The worst thing for Burnham and his UK government is they have been told US ain't getting involved, baby. They ain't going to sacrifice Boston for Birmingham. Not a fucking chance. Not a chance. If Russia does make a point of re-establishing deterrence, it's going to be the UK that gets it, and you can take that to the bank. In the meantime, British planes are buzzing Kaliningrad. British planes are surveilling the Black Sea. Oh well then. Rule Britannia. Britannia will be beneath the fucking waves if it comes to it. That's what Poseidon is. America is caught in a trap. The news reports that Russia might use a tactical nuke in Ukraine is because a demented Oompa Loompa, according to Robert Barnes. Now Robert Barnes is a creature of J.D. Vance. He was once Trump's lawyer. So he's not an idiot. And if he's saying something, it's something that J.D. Vance wants to be out there. 3 times now Trump has asked why he can't use tactical nukes in Iran. Even get your gun Hexeth is balking at that idea. Here's what happens. And every war game scenario that has been played since I was in the fucking military in the 80s shows the same. Every single use of a so-called tactical nuclear weapon leads to a full-on nuclear exchange. Because here's what would happen. If America uses a tactical nuke on Iran, Russia will be compelled to nuke Birmingham or Manchester or Glasgow Russia has also warned that Japan will have a nuke within a year. That means China will be obliged to nuke Tokyo. The escalations are not very hard to follow after that, are they? So, panic stations, baby. We're in it to win it now. Unfortunately, there are people out there, people with credentials, people with big bars on their shoulders that I refused, who are saying that a nuclear war can be won. What they're not telling you is the cost. And the cost is, well, not worth paying. Landslides are slamming Nepal. Volcanoes in Indonesia and elsewhere are erupting like there's no tomorrow. 187 earthquakes around the Ring of Fire beyond the 5.0 this week alone. 7.4 hit just off Japan. The pictures of the tsunamis hitting are just coming in. Imagine if humanity could get its fucking act together enough to deal with the coming climate catastrophes and the pole shift and the incoming binary star. Nah. We're too busy following giant Oompa Loompas and unelected fucking turds from Manchester. I really do not have anything to work with. Well, there's your briefing. I think that's probably enough doom and gloom for one evening. We'll be back on Sunday with a truncated lone gunman. Glenn unfortunately can't be with us again. But we will be looking at some very interesting things concerning Trump's Golden Dome and daring do's from World War II which connect in a straight line to it. So if, and I see lots of smart people in the comments, if anybody wants to do a bit of research and get in contact and come on the show, show us your mail and be a Jacobite. That's the briefing for tonight then. Before I go, I'm going to bring in Alex because I'm going to make this a spot and I hope she's got it lined up. My X feed, and Alex is just going to read to you a handful of the posts that I have been sharing. So Alex, come on in. Unmute yourself, that's always handy.
Yeah, it does help. Okay, what have we got? It's got, if you haven't become a conspiracy theorist by now, congratulations, the fluoride and boosters are working perfectly. We stand at the threshold now, it's going to happen all at once. Ukraine attacked a shopping mall and bus today in separate strikes. At least 18 civilians are dead. Why are we funding this? I hope every Russian understands that our president has no mandate from the Finnish populace to aggravate Russia this way. I consider Alex Stubb to be very close to being complicit in high treason. Shocking first footage of the tsunami waves hitting Japan's coast following today's magnitude 7.4 earthquake. Immediately after Ratcliffe's visit to Moscow, Kiev escalated its terrorist attacks on civilian targets. The goal is to create the impression that Ratcliffe is conducting negotiations this way. Let's watch the US actions. Just in, Russia's President Putin prepares to escalate attacks against Ukraine after peace negotiations reach dead end. Russia's army is ready. Ukraine's attack on Russia's capital would prove to be its final mistake. Russian fighter jets have already taken off for airstrikes on Ukraine. Tonight will be Ukraine's last night. United Kingdom's Royal Air Force RC-135W Rivet Joint aircraft is conducting a reconnaissance intelligence mission in the vicinity of Russia's Kaliningrad enclave. Since the CIA's visit to Moscow, there has been intense NATO military activity around Kaliningrad. Breaking: all Middle Eastern countries reject Trump's sanctions campaign on Iran. Breaking: people across the UK are to be told to stockpile water and tinned food. The Cabinet Office is to launch a campaign urging people to be ready for an emergency. The preparations are said to be necessary in case of national emergencies.
One more, Alex.
And Xi will be in person at the SCO summit in Kyrgyzstan starting Sunday. Russia, China, Iran and Pakistan on the same table, apart from the stands. Eurasia integration on the move, up and away from sanction stupidity.
It's all out there, people, on open source, if you can just discern who to follow and who is talking shite. Well, maybe I talk shite. I don't know. I'm sure most people think I do. But this year, I just have a very bad feeling. By the way, did you know that Buffalo, New York, its international airport, had to shut down? Why? It had no avgas to refuel planes. We wish Glenn a happy birthday, and all we can do is say, keep on keeping on, and I'm trying to think of a Dolly Parton song that fits, and I can't. We may be islands in the stream. We may work 9 to 5. But at the end of the day, the coat of many colours might be the best possession we can have. Buckle up, bitches. It's getting crazy out there. Yes, Alex, I think we can ask our good audience to do me the favour of fucking off, and we'll end the broadcast. Remember though, if you want to do some research and come on and be part of the Lone Gunmen, let us know. We'll hook you up. Alex, please end the broadcast.
I see a bad moon rising. I know there's trouble on the way. I see the earthquakes and lightning, and I see bad times ahead today. Don't come around tonight, it's bound to take your life. There's a bad moon on the rise. I hear the hurricane blowing. I know the end is coming soon. I fear those rivers overflowing. I hear the voices breaking ruin. Don't come around tonight, it's bound to take your life. There's a bad moon on the rise. I hope you got yourself together. I hope you're all prepared tonight. Looks like we're in for stormy weather. Wonder what you've been thinking about tonight. Don't come around tonight, it's bound to be a fight. There's a bad moon on the rise. Don't come around tonight, it's bound to take your life. There's a bad moon on the rise. There's a bad moon on the rise. There's a bad moon on the rise.